Oh my God, Niall Horan! It's so good to see you, man.
I know it's been too long, man. Good to see you.
Way too. Okay, we got so much to talk about. Album, we got singles, we got. I'm assuming there's a tour kind of in the works and all that fun stuff. We got to talk about how much you miss me and I missed you. And I'm sure that's. I got fan questions. Hit me up. It's a hot mess. So let's get this thing going. Niall Horan is here. Niall. Album details.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not sure what you can reveal. Obviously, I've asked for fan questions, and they've given me 1,000 questions for you. So, won't you just kind of talk about this album? What can people expect from this?
It's a good transition. I think based on Nice to Meet You get an idea of where I've headed, kind of more down a rockier type route. And this time, I didn't want to pigeonhole myself into a certain genre. I just kind of wanted to go in, write the song, and then dress it up production-wise, however it may feel, at the time. So it was more about the songwriting this time and just going in and writing what I felt were good, pop songs, and then we can dress them up, however, as I said. So it's a lot more up-tempo. There's obviously, it wouldn't be an album of mine if there was no ballads on it. And,
Got it.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, it feels really good. I'm really happy with it. I had a lot of fun making it. More fun than I've ever had making anything, and I hope you can feel that when it comes. So I think it'll probably come out. I'm probably answering a few questions here in one go. I hoping for like February, March next year, maybe a single, in the next couple of months again, maybe, and I'll tour and hopefully from next summer. Gotcha.
We'll get to all the tour stuff in a sec. But a fan hit me up. Apparently, you had a dream. There's some song that you based on a dream. Now, I'm not sure if this is true or not, but is that true? And if so, is there what song we'll be looking for that came from this dream?
Yeah, there's a song in the album that I basically wrote a full verse in my dream, and I woke up in the middle of the night at like 5 a.m. And usually, if I wake up something like that, I'll just go I'll remember it in the morning, and then you never remember it, like any dream. And then this time I wrote it down, and I ended up writing a whole verse based on that, or a whole song based on that verse.
So in your dream, you wrote the song, like you're dreaming, and you're in the dream with.
I'm writing a song in my dream. Yeah, to be honest, it happens quite often, but I just tend to not write them down. This time I wrote it down.
Now, is that like a lucid dreaming kind of thing, where some people can control what they do in the dream? Is that what you're doing with that, or does it just sort of happen and there's no explanation?
No idea, man.
Whoever, clearly it's working, so keep doing that thing.
Yeah, and it's one of my favorite songs it turned out to be, and the line was pretty decent that started it off, so I stuck with it.
Can you say what that title of that, or is that that's probably under wraps now, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to keep that one away.
Well, you'll let us know when it, okay, got it. Yeah. Now, I love, as you know, crazy road stories.
Yeah.
Weird things, wild things, unusual things. Like I've talked to buddies, septic tanks have broken on tour buses. They leave a band member in another country. Actually, both those things were from One Republic.
Really?
Yeah. So what? I'm sure you've had just, give me something on the road that's like, what the heck?
We did. I've seen some mad stuff on tour buses. It's kind of, tour bus life is a strange one. Yeah. Oh God. We had a good. I think I've told the story before. We had a weird night out where we were doing a jingle ball up north in San Jose or something like that, and we were. There was a really good bill. I remember like Taylor Swift was on it, and Ed Sheeran and Logic and Khalid and it was all sorts. Nick Jonas, everything. And afterwards, myself and Ed had been chatting all day about right, this is our last one. Let's go have a drink. And Logic was there as well, the Chainsmokers. And we were talking about how we were going to get to San Francisco. So we invited Logic, and us, my band, Ed and Logic came with us to San Francisco on our tour bus. And we're driving along, and then out of nowhere, we're all having a drink, and we're all up singing like Irish traditional diddly songs. And then out of nowhere, just brake slam. And we think we're going along at 65 or whatever it is. And just bang, slam on the brakes, and then everyone just gets covered, and there was beer everywhere on the ceiling, dripping off everyone's clothes. Ed got saturated, and he didn't have any clothes with him, so I had my suitcase on my bed, and I opened it out, and I see if I could find anything, and the only thing that fitted Ed was a Boston Bruins hockey shirt, and it had Horan #1 on the back of it.
It had what?
Like my name, Horan #1. I'd played, in the region, and someone had gotten me, the shirt. We go into a bar in San Francisco, and Ed's wearing this hockey shirt. I posted a picture of it at the time on my Instagram, and he just looked like we're trying to keep under the radar. You know, Ed, quite a recognizable face. He's wearing a hat. You know, he's got his glasses on, trying to keep the head down. You know, there's a couple of famous faces, and Ed's got my name on the back of his shirt, which was just, I mean, I could tell stories for days, but that was one of my favorites.
God, by the way, everybody, most people who have met up with Ed always has a good Ed story. He's just made for good times, I guess.
I mean, he's one of the greatest of all time, and he and I, when we get together, we tend to have a couple of drunken nights, yes.
One of these days, I want to join you guys.
Yes, you are more than welcome.
As we sit right now, how do tour plans, how are they shaping up?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a talking point amongst the team. Now it's just kind of like finding what venues are free, leave that stuff to the agent. That's what I do. People always ask me why do you not come to this city? Why do you not come to that city? Because I just tell my agent, I'm going on tour. There's a few venues I would like to play. I tell them, see if they're free, and then they do the rest. And they're pretty good at it. I cover a lot of ground last year.
That's just too much. Like if they said, Niall, plan a tour, and it's not what you do. What you do is you write music, and your job is being you, basically.
Exactly.
To plan that tour would give me so many levels of anxiety and panic. It would just be.
But these guys do it for a living, and they're pretty decent at it. So I'm just going to let them do it. But yeah, hopefully I'll be touring by the summer. You know, I want to let the album come out, breathe for a little bit. You know, because I think the quality of music is there this time, and hopefully, you know, we can play some cool venues and get some cool support on it and just make it a real big thing. Yeah, I want this to be my biggest tour. So
we're thinking, are we considering bigger venues? That was a fan question that came up.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, I like playing the outdoor amphitheater things. They're amazing, like, because you can fit 10,000, you can fit 20,000 in them with the lawn and all that situation, and they're so fun. But I would obviously like to, you know, for lighting and all that, I would love to play some arenas and things like that if I can. I mean, whatever I can sell out, I'll do it. The bigger the venue, the better.
Niall.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
When I first heard this track, man, it's just, I don't know, it's beautiful, man. I think it's perfect follow up to Flicker and all the stuff you did. It's just, I don't know, it's just right. It's amazing.
I'm happy you say that because you're the one that has to play it, and
I'm going to hear it 1,000 times what you're saying. Yeah, so, yeah.
I'm glad you said that. I just feel like I haven't released music in nearly like 2 years. So if you're going to come back with a bit of a splash, and I think this has got so much energy to it, and I'm really happy with it. Like, out of the collection of songs I have, you know, I really like all of them, and I'm actually struggling to bring the number of tracks on the album down to a certain level because I like so many songs myself.
That's a great but difficult problem to have.
Yeah, it's a high class problem.
Oh yes, indeed.
and and this one just, it stands out. You know, like I feel every time I turn it on, I'm still captivated by it now, and I hope that the millions that listen to this right now feel the same way about it.
Couple of questions about the song. No names required. Is it about someone in particular?
It was based on kind of like a night out, you know, like 26, I'm out enjoying myself, you know, bump into someone, you know, I'm with my friends, you know, she's with hers, and then kind of like we're chatting away, but, you know, like a loose conversation, and, you know, can I get you a drink, blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, she's doing her thing, so I kind of look away and then chat to my friends and turn around, and then she kind of like, I say in the song, you know, every time I turn around, you disappear, and I kind of feel like I've lost you, but on that night, specific night out, you know, it's a small area, so there are a lot of bars in a very small area, so we kept kind of like bumping into each other. I didn't overthink it because once I started playing that riff, I just thought that this is not an overcomplicated song. Just start singing lyrics, and this story came out of it. And, you know, she had tattoos and stuff, and like had the line with the tattoo in it, and I thought she looked really cool. So,
does she know this song is about her, or roughly?
No, I don't think so.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, another question about this track, fan question. The significance of the French lyric.
Yeah, I mean, it's as significant as you. The reason I put it in is because, you know, you get to ask me a question about it.
Just means nothing.
I mean, I've been saying, you know, if you listen to it, if you were to write that line down in English, it would say, "I want to take you somewhere warm. You know, I love the sea." Which, I mean, doesn't sound as sexy.
Right?
Yeah, it sounds a lot sexier in French, and it rhymed. I want to take you somewhere warm. You know, j'adore la mer. So,
right, just you saying those two things, I'm like, English, French, you know. All right, let's do this. Niall Horan's hanging out. This is the track that blew me away, you guys. Nice to meet you. Niall, you mentioned this earlier, talking about the album coming out. We're looking at early next year, give or take. the amount of songs you're having to narrow it down. So I'm curious, how many songs do you think you had, and what are you trying to narrow down to? Like, we're talking 50 songs written to get down to 11 kind of a thing?
Yeah, I've got 56 or something like that. But, I mean, a third of that is horrendous, and that's why they never see the light of day, But I got it whittled down. The ones I actually got, like, properly produced and mixed and we properly recorded was 19. Is that right? Yeah, about 19. And then from there, I've got it to 16, and then still think that might be a little bit too much. Having said that, Taylor brought out an 18-track album last week, and I went, ooh, maybe.
You could add two to
recently.
it,
Maybe, yeah. And then I was like, I still think that, some of my favorite albums are like 13, 14, 12, 13, 14, somewhere around there. If I can get it to that, I'll be happy.
Why do you think that? Why is that the magic number for you? Like, for example, like Thriller is one of my all-time favorites. 9 songs.
Okay.
So why is that? Why does that number matter?
I don't know,
I don't even know.
I guess it's a good problem to have if you're struggling to whittle it down. I don't know. I just look at albums and I listen to a lot of. I'm a record listener.
Right.
In the world where people just listen to one song and move on, and I'm still like, as you say, albums like that. I'm still listening to long albums, and I don't know. I just look at that number, looks right in my head. I don't know. Well,
I guess what I'll say about some artists, they're not in the right spot or space to do an album. It's a single. We're a singles based world right now. I get it, but there are some artists that an album is just right, and you're one of those artists. So just putting that out there, just so you know.
Thank you, sir.
Another fan question: do you have a favorite moment while recording this new album? Something behind the scenes that perhaps we haven't heard about yet, or maybe we have. Who knows?
Yeah, there's a song. Writing there's a specific ballad that I wrote was pretty intense. It was quite a cool song to write. And then there was also a song that I wrote. We actually a few of us went on a little. It's quite the trip. We went to the Bahamas for a week.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and we had a studio down there, and we were just we actually worked harder there than we would at home, because if you were here in LA, you'd go to the studio, you'd drive to the studio, and then at like 6-7 p.m. you'd go home, and then come in the next day. Where we were locked in this studio basically, and we were working a lot harder. We were writing 2 songs a day sometimes.
Oh wow.
And
so you weren't enticed to go to the beach, or?
We went to the beach for sunset, to get out of the room for like an hour. And we actually ended up writing one of the songs on the beach.
Oh, wow.
In about 10 minutes. One of those songs that came together really quick. We're sitting there. There's even a mention. I tweeted about it. I tweeted a lyric, an island without, feels like the world's locked us in an island without waves. And there was just waves crashing, tide coming in. Just, you're inspired by what you see. Anyway, wrote this song, which potentially could be a single at some point. I absolutely love it. And I haven't had that feeling before in the studio where we felt like we'd written something really, really good. And we were dancing around, and I actually have a video on my phone, and I'll show you, Jojo. And I said, when this song comes out, I'm going to post this video, because we were like jumping around the studio. It's a real stomper, everyone jumping around. Even people who had like, I was with Teddy Geiger, who does all Shawn Mendes' stuff, and Julian Bonetta and John Ryan, who did all the 1D stuff with me, and Tobias, who does songs for Adele and wrote Slow Hands with me, and Scott Harris, who does Shawn Mendes and all this, and Esquerdo, who does Work From Home and all this kind of stuff. And even like they were like pumped up, and I was like, well, if they're excited, then it must be really good.
Goodness, the way you're describing this seems like this might be. It's hard to pick a favorite, but this is right up there.
Yeah, and it's definitely it might be my favorite. And maybe I'm just excited because it is my favorite, but I hope I haven't overhyped that, and it could be the worst song of all time for all I know, but I didn't care at the time. We were having such a good time. This whole record, to be honest, was just so fun to write. I just went in with that attitude, just go and write songs and don't overthink it, and let's see what happens. And I think for that, all of this next promo run and the tour and all that is just going to be so fun.
Man, I can't wait to hear this album. I'm always curious, and it's tough to answer this question, or at least tough to verbalize it, I guess. What is it like, and what changes, if anything, when an artist hits number one? I know, Slow Hands hit one, Flicker one, at 1D, you guys had God knows how many number ones. What's it like? What happens when you get, especially that first one, when it hits number one?
I'll never forget when we had the first number one in America with the first album, 1D. We were like going head to head with, I want to say, Adele, and might even been Bruce Springsteen or someone. but like someone really big, like two big artists, and we were going head to head, and we weren't sure if we were going to do it, and then we ended up getting it. And we broke all sorts of like historical records and like first band or something outside of America to get a #1 album in the States first go or something like, I don't know, there was a Guinness World Record or whatever. And you're just listening to this thing and you're like 18 and you're like, what is going on? Like, growing up where I'm from, like 20,000 people in butt F nowhere in the middle of Ireland. And I mean, America is just like a different planet. It's only 5 or 6 hours away to get to New York or whatever, but it feels like years away. So to come over here and do, you know, what we did at the time, again, was just insane. And then, you know, watching my album go to #1 last time was just amazing. Like, that means you're the #1 13 songs in the country or whatever. And when Slow Hands went to #1, that was insane because we worked so hard on it. You know, I'd been to felt like I was in every radio station in the country, playing like acoustic gigs and meeting fans and meeting DJs and really worked it. And at the time, that song really shouldn't have been that successful based on, and I keep thinking about this and I say it because it makes sense, like all the types of music that were out at the time, and it's kind of similar to them now. An 80s blues pop song shouldn't have really been that successful, but because it was so different, it probably did. That was the reason it was so successful. And watching that go to #1 was insane. I was actually in Vegas playing the music festival.
And you got the call or email? Or?
Yeah, my radio guy Greg was with me, and he told us that we just done it, and that was pretty insane.
I can imagine, like, your brain is just
it's just mind blowing. The #1 song of all the songs in the country that could be #1. You know how many songs you're playing here weekly, and you're the #1 song. It's pretty cool.
Well, it couldn't happen to a better guy. So
there's
Judge. That. You guys, Niall Horan is hanging out. Niall, this is a thing that you and I have discussed over the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
I've become mildly obsessed with Mully.
Yeah.
Your best friend, roommate. I guess he's not your. Is he? No, he's not your roommate.
Yeah,
now.
he is now. Yeah, he's still there.
All right, so
holding down fort.
Right. Okay. So I don't know when this started. I don't think I've ever really had a sit down with Mully, to be honest with you. But yeah. I became concerned about his love life and how he's doing. So
I love that this is a thing.
It's 4 years in or whatever now. How's he doing?
He's great. He's got a girlfriend.
Oh, no kid.
Yeah, girls, it's over. He's been taken by a lovely lady, and he seems to be very happy. I was chatting to him this morning.
She's treating him good.
He's good. Yeah, she's from out of town, so he's been doing a bit of traveling. He's a busy man. He works in medical devices.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he also
Mully works for medical devices.
Yeah, he's big, like, they make like all these little tubings and stuff for hospitals and big pharma companies, if you like to call it. And he's got a bar in Hollywood, and I mean, this guy is. There was one time where his surname is Mulholland, like the street, or how would you say it?
Like Mulholland. Yeah,
Mulholland. And we used to call him Mulhollywood.
That's funny
because he just came to Hollywood, moved here about 4 or 5 years ago, and took it by storm. I mean, I introduced him to about 2 or 3 people, and he became. I mean, you could go anywhere, and everybody knows this guy. Even you know about him.
I do.
You know what I mean?
And this is a national countdown. People need to know Mully, Niall's friend. But, right now you're top billing. He may surpass you at some point. Like,
honestly, I'm game over.
So one of these nights, I want to go to Mully's bar in Hollywood.
You can come whenever you want. I was going to say that to you.
Let's go have a nice little chat. And I want to meet Mully's. I want to make sure, I feel like I need to approve of this relationship.
Okay.
Because just make sure he's doing okay. You guys get on this Niall project. I mean, I'm so pumped for this guy. Obviously, he's a great dude. And, man, you make great music, man.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate
Absolutely.
It. Good to see you, as always.
Good to see you. At the end of every interview, Niall, fist bump to make it official. Give me a little...
Of course. There we go. Pow.